Bonjour, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is episode 27 of Wine with Wanda on Instagram Lives. As always, I appreciate you all for being here and for watching. So today is a gray, dreary, rainy day in New York City, and I am in desperate need of some ooh la la. So I think this is a job for champagne. And today, specifically, that champagne is Champagne Henriot, ooh la la. And joining me on this quest to make my day a little more glamorous is a very special guest, Champagne Henriot's Director of Marketing, Amelie Derrieux-Sable. So I'm so excited. I'm going to add her in just a moment. And so let me tell you a little bit about Champagne Henriot, if you're not familiar. The Champagne House was founded in 1808. That's over 200 years ago. And they are family owned, and they're one of the few remaining family owned houses in Champagne. And they're particularly known for their Chardonnay driven style. So I see Amelie's there. I'm going to add her in just a moment. When she's on, we're going to taste two of their wines, their flagship Blanc de Blanc. This is their flagship wine. And this is 100% Chardonnay, and it retails for about $65. And then later on in the chat, we're going to have the Henriot Millésine 2008, which is a blend of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that retails for about $100. So let's see if the technology will be our friend today. Making it. Good morning. Someone said good morning. Good morning to you. Thank you for watching. I see some friends. We're going to. Ah, Emily.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How
Good,
are you,
good.
Wanda?
I'm good. I'm good. Bonjour, bonjour.
Bonjour.
So are you in France, or are you based in the States, or?
Well, I'm in France right now. I'm one of those who flee a little bit of New York, but
Okay.
I will be back. My family has actually a vineyard in the southwest of France.
Oh, okay.
I've decided to spend some time there, but I have to say, we live in a very weird world these days, but New York is New York and nothing can replace it. And I miss the city.
Thank you. This native New Yorker appreciates you saying that. We are going through a tough time, but we're resilient and creative. So I think we're going to come out on the other side. But thank you. You actually kind of, led to my first question. I always love to know a bit about the guests before we talk about the wine. So it seems that perhaps you come from a family that was in the wine industry.
Yeah, so I'm one of those who grew up on a vineyard in the southwest of France. It's a little bit of in between Bordeaux and the Languedoc-Roussillon. My family
Okay.
has been making wine for 11 generations. My kids are
Wow.
12 generations. Yes, so
That's beautiful.
I think I was born and raised. I don't want to say in a barrel because we don't really use that much of barrels here, but you get the idea. But I do have a part of my family that went to Champagne and married into Champagne. So I do have like a family connection there, and most importantly, a passion for it.
Wonderful. So you always kind of knew that your destiny would be in the wine world. Was that always very clear to you?
No, that would have been too easy. I on the opposite, I fought it. I just wanted to, go to a big city. I mean, I live in a little, I grew up in a little village, like 500 inhabitants. So I wanted to get out of there.
Of course.
I wanted to travel the world. I studied in Paris, and I got my first job in New York working for Georges Duboff, that
Oh,
Beaujolais,
of
yes,
course.
and I completely fell in love with the city, and I met, now he's my husband, and I just stayed. I one of those who didn't come back, and it's been 15 years now.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little. How long have you been with the Champagne Embryo now? How long have you been in this role as director of marketing?
So it's going to be 4 or 5 years at the end of January. And it's more than just Champagne Henriot, it's Maison and Domaine Henriot. I'm the director of marketing for the United States.
Ah,
So
wonderful.
I'm in charge of taking the house vision and their and their beautiful products, and market them and build visibility and tools, etc. in the United States. So Maison et Domaine Henriot we're a small family-owned company, and Champagne Henriot is really the origin and the foundation of it. So Champagne House, established in 1808. It's today, it's one of the original and historic Grand Marques, established in 1808 by Apolline Henriot, and one of the last remaining family-owned company. And the Henriot family in the mid-90s was one of the first champagne family to venture themselves to Burgundy. So Burgundy and Champagne are, in close distance. It would be about a 3-hour drive. They work with the same grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, in particular, but they have a very different culture.
Of course.
And Burgundy is very fragmented, so it's not that easy to make that connection. But the Henriot family was very lucky, blessed, I even want to say, to have the opportunity to take over one of the oldest wine merchant established in Beaune, which is Bouchard Père et Fils, established since 1731, and they had a beautiful collection of Premier Grand Cru parcels, terroir, a lot of like hectares. And so that how they the family Henriot took over from the Bouchard family, and luck strikes several times. Sometime a few years later, in '98, another beautiful estate in Chablis. So Chablis territory, it's only Chardonnay, but the same idea: Premier Grand Cru and beautiful terroirs, really like the best of the best. And so the Henriot family took over from William Fèvre, who retired.
Very well known, yes.
Who retired, and I believe you both had an opportunity in the past to taste both William Fèvre and meet with Didier, our Cellar Master, and Frédéric Weber for Bouchard.
I have. Beautiful wines, both. What seems definitely the connection is the strong commitment to terroir and conveying that in the wines.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
Absolutely. It really all started with Champagne Henriot and Apolline Henriot, who was from the Montagne de Reims, which is where you have the best terroirs for Pinot Noir. And so that was 1808. And one of her grandsons married Marie Marguet, who brought beautiful terroirs from the Côte des Blancs, where the best Chardonnays are grown. And so here, this is how the Henriot style really was born, with the best terroir, Premier Grand Cru, and a predominance of Chardonnay.
Yes, and that commitment to Chardonnay has been consistent from the beginning. So why the commitment to Chardonnay driving? Because it occurred to me, I was like, normally a non-vintage flagship wine is very rarely a Blanc de Blanc in my experience. So this is quite unique to have your non-vintage flagship be 100% Chardonnay. It's kind of exciting.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Because Chardonnay is really, like, of the three grape varieties, is the only white, right? Pinot Meunier, Pinot Noir, or red grapes. Chardonnay is really like what I like to call a chameleon grape. In itself, Chardonnay is not really, it doesn't impact the taste or the profile very much. However, it takes really, like, it absorbs what the soil and the terroir has to give back. I mean, think about it. When you go to Chablis and you drink, which is 100% Chardonnay, you really taste that minerality, which is very typical from the soil, the Khmer region. If you go to New Zealand and you sip on a Chardonnay, I bet you think it's a Sauvignon Blanc, because, it's pretty much like the same taste profile, almost tropical, very round. So in the case of Henriot, that expression of Chardonnay is really about expressing the best terroir in the soil, but it's also about the finesse and about the precision, right? Chardonnay delivers that finesse and that elegance. Pinot Noir is more about the structure, the body, and Pinot Meunier, which is usually used in a smaller portion. Mm-hmm. In our case, it's very small. We just use a little bit in our Brut Souverain. It's really about, creating a bridge in between. It's fruity. It doesn't age as well, but it creates that little bit of a round. So back to Chardonnay. Chardonnay is really our soul. Our soul. We have that finesse. You have, higher acidity as well. That makes it very food friendly, and it's just really like the finesse, the precision, and the terroir that expresses through that cuvée and that flagship. But when you use the best terroirs and Chardonnay in particular, the champagne requires more time to age. Mm-hmm. Especially that champagne are like more high acidity wines, so you use that dosage at the end of the process to balance the acidity, but it requires more time, and we age our champagne. We're known to age our champagne longer. Time is that ingredient that is key to give the time to mature, to age, and eventually reveals really like distinctive champagne and what I like to call like luminous. You can see in your glass how it shines through, yes, and I'm actually sipping along as
I know, it's real. I started a little early as well because I couldn't resist. But it has a beautiful just texture as well. It really fills your mouth. It's very balanced. I get that minerality, the fruit, but it's crisp. Just really just a lovely expression of Chardonnay.
And it stays on your palate forever. I mean, I just had a sip. It's still there. It persists. I mean, that's a champagne that takes time to be released and to express. But I also like to say you need to take the time to enjoy it as well, because you have like a more rewarding experience.
True. It is very relaxing. I've heard some people say, oh, sparkling wine right now, there's nothing to celebrate. And I go, I disagree. Oh. It's such a wine that gives you a moment to contemplate and relax and find a glimmer, as you said, that luminosity that's still in our lives, despite everything that's going on. Champagne really forces you to kind of take a time out, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, of course, there's nothing to celebrate, but I think there's a lot to, we need to indulge, mm-hmm. Take care of ourselves. And at this point, I see champagne as a therapy.
Yes.
Obviously we have to be, moderate in how much we enjoy, of course. But there is, like something that opening a bottle of champagne itself makes it a special moment. And at least that's how I see it. And that's how I enjoy, champagne. The occasion and the celebration is opening that bottle of champagne because, I'm excited. I pick my bottle, in advance, and I put it in the fridge. I took it out a little early so that it's not too cold. Mm-hmm. And then I pop it, and, my day is made.
I agree. Well, I'm going to show the bottle again for people that are just joining. So this is what you're looking for. This is the flagship wine, the Blanc de Blanc. It's non-vintage, 100% Chardonnay. It's about $65. And I think pretty widely available in the U.S., correct?
Yes, I mean, we have some specific partners. Okay. I'm thinking depends where you are. Wine.com is one of them. And these days, it's easy to get it delivered. There are others. We are, we're not in supermarkets or grocery stores. We tend to be in fine wine stores. But, if you're in California, Wally's, Zaki's in New York or around, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So
So that's great. So for those of you who can't find you in your local retailer, wine.com would be a great
Yes, wine.com,
resource.
exactly. And it makes me realize actually, like, blanc de blanc, it means white from white,
Yes.
right? Which is like white juice from
Mm-hmm.
white grape,
Exactly.
as opposed
Beautiful.
to like Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier that can deliver white or clear juice, but it comes from a red grape.
Yeah, so that would be a Blanc de Noir. Do you have that in your portfolio? Do you make
No,
no?
no, we don't
Because
do
you're
Blanc de Noir.
Chardonnay people.
That's, yes, we're sticking to our grounds, and we have for over 200 years.
Before we get to the second one, I did want to ask one other question about the house. So I saw that recently you have a new cellar master, correct?
Mm.
And I believe it's a woman.
Absolutely, which is great, and she's really like fantastic. I think sometimes in life stars align,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what how I feel about Alice Tétienne joining the house. So she started actually back in February,
Okay.
and she comes from Krug, where so another very very well recognized and acclaimed house, and she was in charge in particular of the vineyards and of part of the tasting committee. And it's nice. I mean, women have been an important piece of founding the house and building the
Absolutely.
style. No, Apolline Henriot was one of those widows in when she founded the house. I mean, some call them the Merry Widows, whether it's like even our Veuve Clicquot or
Mm-hmm.
the Veuve Bollinger, the Veuve Pommery. I mean, there are quite a few of them. Apolline was for sure a widow. I'm not sure if she was married, but she was a widow. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Marie Breguet as well played an important role, bringing that those blanc de blanc, those Chardonnay terroirs, and being at the start of the style. And so Alice is from Champagne. She's really she grew up there. She has a passion. She even grew up. I think her grandmother didn't live far from in the Montagne de Reims, from where Apolline
Okay.
had her first vineyards. So really a true connection, and she has really a vision to take the viticulture and the understanding of the terroir to the next level in for our house. So the precision of our champagne, you can taste the precision means like the finesse and really how things are like spot on and chiseled. And her idea is to have really more like really plot by plot type of approach with the sources of our grapes, whether it's our vineyard or if it's our partners.
That's wonderful. I think it's always so exciting, especially a house with such a long history spanning more than 2 centuries. A new winemaker has to respect your tradition and,
Yes.
deliver the consistency that your customers love, but also, as you said, look for ways, to better understand the process, the terroir, the zone. So that's really exciting. I look forward to
Yes,
following
it is. And we
her
are lucky.
career.
She was recognized or awarded. She was recognized, given the award of the best winemaker of the year by the Trophée Champenois, which is like a trade media, I mean, insider type of magazine. And the award was like given to her by our former cellar master, Laurent Freinet.
Okay.
And there was a wonderful image to see that the baton was passed and that there's a continuity. I mean, when you're a house of like over 200 years, I mean, of course the cellar master is important, but the truth is like the family Henriot, I mean, Gilles de la Rousienne is the generation who is leading Maison et Domaine Henriot. They are really giving they are the compass,
Of
right?
course.
And then all of us, whomever works for the company, obviously the cellar master is an important one, contributes, but we only pass through, right?
Yeah, that's one. Oh, I meant to ask. So, do you have something that you love to eat with this? Any favorite pairings with your blanc de blanc?
Yes, actually, I have one that's very easy to make, and that's an easy show off. It's cheese puffs. You call them
Ooh.
gougères in
Oh,
French,
those are delicious. I love those.
right? And they're actually like super easy to make, and it's always like a hit. And you know, I like to impress. Blanc de blanc, because of the higher acidity, goes well with food. But I also like to have a glass before dinner because that acidity like opens your appetite. And you can use cheese. I mean, the standard is Swiss, but you can push it a little further with like maybe cheddar. That's like a little more greasy because they balance well, have a higher fat content, so they balance well with the acidity.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Yeah, I always say I'm going to learn to make those wonderful little French cheese puffs. Now I have the time to do it. I should add that to my repertoire.
It's really very easy to make.
Yes. So we have your beautiful 2008, which I realized the house was founded in 1808. So
Yes.
this is a very 200
vintage.
200 vintage.
And
that's pretty exciting.
Yes, we were absolutely unbelievably lucky to have an amazing, a really good vintage that we had in quality, in somewhat quantity as well, because these days we're trying to push the walls sometimes, whether it's Burgundy, Champagne vintages can be shorter, or the quality also is not deemed to the standard of the house. So we don't produce a vintage Champagne every year. And this is another expression of our commitment to quality. So that's an expression of the commitment to quality and our styles through the lenses of one vintage. Because the previous one, which I didn't mention, but it's a non-vintage, which should rather be called multi-vintage.
True.
You have in the Blanc de Blanc up to 25 vintages. It's mostly like half of it is the what you call the vintage base, which is when the year of the harvest. But then in Champagne, in the type of cuvée, you have the ability to go back in your cellar and use wines that have from previous
your reserve wines,
what you call it. That's why you call them reserve wine. So in our case, there's a little bit of the secret ingredient, although that's not a very geeky term, that is coming from a Perpetual Reserve tank that we have, which was created in 1990 by Joseph Henriot. And it's really our soul. It's only Grand Cru Chardonnay from the Côte des Blancs. And every year a piece of it is a portion of that tank is removed and used as reserve wine. And a portion of it is bottled and aged in Magnum. And we call this Cuve 38. It's only 1,000 Magnum that we do every year. And that's a wonderful, amazing, when you taste the wine, it's unbelievable of freshness and beauty, really, and that light, like that we like to call is wonderful. So back to my Perpetual Reserve. So Perpetual is like, as you remove a piece every year and you refresh with the current vintage, it's Perpetual. You do that every year. And so we use a little bit of this.
So that is in here always. Interesting.
Exactly. And do you have on all of our, you have like a little bit of that orange, tiny orange band here?
Yes.
So that's a double reference. One, it's a little touch that's consistent along our line. That's the common thread if I may say, of Henriot and the style, the commitment to Chardonnay, to the best cru, to the time, and to that idea of continuity.
It's almost like a champagne Solera. That's interesting.
Exactly. But that's exactly what it is. You get it. But I purposely did not use Solera, because when you use Solera, but the idea is exactly that. It's, you think about sherries, and you think about those nutty and caramelly flavors and oxidized notes that you can get with that kind of technique, which is the complete opposite of
course
what we have with that kind of with that grape and that terroir. If anything, it's more a little bit reductive, meaning like it's very, very sharp, very that touch of minerality. Anyway, it's not oxidative at all. On the opposite, it's really like fresh.
Wonderful. Yeah. So let's talk about the 2008. So 200 vintage. You said it was a great year, which is why you were able to make it.
Yes.
So are these grapes sourced from? So this has 50% Chardonnay, 50% Pinot Noir.
Yeah, because in that case, like when it's about a vintage, you want to express the vintage, you want that year at special. So you look for the balance between that Chardonnay and that Pinot Noir. It's really of like finding the balance when you're at that level of like quality. It's about $100 a bottle of 2008. There's no more Pinot Meunier, because those wines are meant to age longer, and it's 100% Premier and Grand Cru. So at this point, it was 80% of Premier and Grand Cru in the Blanc de Blanc. Here it's just 100%.
Okay, wonderful.
And so the aging, I mean, the higher proportion of wine that Premier and Grand Cru you use, the longer the aging. Our Prestige Cuvée, which is a new Prestige Cuvée that was released last year, that we call Hemera, is 100% Grand Cru and is aged even longer. So that would be about 8 to 7 years. No, 10 years. 2008. We released this in 2018. So 10 years.
10 years.
For Hemera, it was 13.
Wow. Do you know yet what your next vintage release will be?
So for the Prestige Cuvée, it would be 2006. Because we are only on 2005. So again, we are known for the time that we put into aging our champagne. And that's, I have to say, that's a really important perk or quality of being a family-owned champagne house, is that we don't give in to the pressure of the market. We really hold our champagne until they're ready to be released. To give you an example, we released our new Prestige Cuvée Hemera in 2005, Vintage 5 in 2018, at the same time as the Vintage 08. And it's because the champagne were ready, and it was the time for champagne aficionado to just taste it. And we should have probably staged it a little different. But time is an important element. So we released our champagne a little later on the market. So we are on the Prestige still on the Vintage 2005, and Brut 2008, which we released in 2018, is still available. And right now, Brut Vintage 8 is becoming scarce.
Ah, okay. So if they want to order this, hurry, because
and it's one of those vintage which gonna last. So back to your question, there's a few vintages that were good in Champagne, but they're still aging. 2012 is likely what we're looking at, but 2010 was small production, so it's still to be decided. I think at this point, to be honest, we have a wonderful, and as mentioned, very lucky, beautiful 2008. So we're lingering on it. It's going to evolve. when it was released about 2 years ago, it was that baby. You could say like so fresh and so young. And I like to make a comparison with Benjamin Button. You know, have you seen that? Have you seen that
Yes.
Brad Pitt movie?
Yes, the Brad Pitt film where he.
So it was that very wise old man, because you have the 200 history, the best terroir, all that wisdom inside the bottle, but the body, was a baby. It was really just like very fresh and young, and almost like too young. Now it's starting to evolve. You can open and enjoy, but it has a longer way to go. So I'm okay with like sticking with the weight, for another few years before releasing the next vintage.
Absolutely. I mean, the nose on this is so captivating. You're getting more of that kind of nuttiness, that warm brioche, just really beautiful nose.
And so the temperature at which you taste and you enjoy your champagne, so taking the time to like sip and enjoy like the beautiful quality that Champagne Henriot really delivers, it's the same with the temperature. If your champagne is too cold, it kind of mutes the aroma, the flavor, and like it kind of diminished the experience. And from the moment you opened that 2008 and now, and as like it's getting closer to like room temperature, it's warmer, so it's more like enticing, it's more and enjoyable, right?
Yeah, really. But it's great. I'm definitely getting more complexity, nuttiness, even like a little ginger. You get that beautiful minerality, but the freshness is still there.
Still there. And that little bit of touch of like minerality also is there. Very fresh. Yep.
Yeah, this is going to age beautifully. This is definitely one. Buy two if you can. One for now and one to try it again in a couple of years to see where it's going.
You have to taste. Maybe we do this again sometime, in the future with our prestige cuvée Hemera. The Blanc de Blanc is our flagship. It gives a good sense of how Chardonnay is important and the style of the house. 08 retells a wonderful like story about the vintage and enhancing the history of the family and the commitments to quality.
Absolutely.
Hemera is another level. It's made from what we call our founding crus, which were the original crus brought by Apollinario and Marie Marguet, only Grand Cru. Again, 50% Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, aged 13 years, and it needs the time. It's aged at the Maison Les Aulnois, which is the Henriot family home in Pierry, nearby. At the foot, it's at let's call this the foot of the Côte des Blancs. And Hemera, so Hemera means the Greek goddess, the goddess of delight, and she was in charge of like lifting the veil of dawn in the morning. There is in their house like a mythology scene in one of the old wallpaper that they have in that house and inspired this, but it's most importantly an homage to like how much time that champagne spends in the darkness of in the quietness of the cellars. 13 years. I mean, think about what were you doing 13 years ago?
Yeah, it comes in a baby and comes out a teenager, but a very sophisticated teenager.
Exactly. And like that champagne that, also explains sometimes that, time is an important like value and has value as well, because it brings the best expression and allows to reveal the expression of the terroir.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
so
I love
let's do that next, Hemera.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
So, the other thing I always like to remind people about, champagne, it's still a wine that you can have throughout a meal. It doesn't have to just be the toast or at the end. And especially when you get into something more complex like this, I mean, is there a food pairing that you recommend? Because I just feel like this is a wine that could stand up to quite a meal, actually.
Yeah, you can certainly, for sure. That's a little bit of a misconception, actually, that you have to, to switch to like red wine with your
Exactly.
meat, to etc. You can have like some fish, maybe a little bit of cream in the as a sauce, but like not too much because it has the power to handle it. What else am I thinking about? I mean, back to my cheese puff. You can use like a stronger cheese, maybe a little bit of a touch of a spice in that cheese that can take it. Even that aged cheddar, if it's really old, that can make it. What would you have with it if you had to cook?
No, I definitely thought of fish, and also I thought even a roast chicken that isn't overly, not too spicy, but with some delicate herbs. I think this would just pair beautifully with like a roast chicken, with just kind of, I love the combination of like comfort food and sophisticated champagne. I just think it always kind of, you don't have to say champagne for just special occasions.
Thanksgiving is going to be there soon, so
that's true.
why not, if we can,
absolutely
celebrate and maybe gather a little bit for that.
So I'm glad you're always giving me these great segues to the next question. So you mentioned, there are a lot of misperceptions that people have. Is there something that you really want to address that maybe bothers you, that people still don't quite understand about Champagne or Henriot, that you'd like to clarify while you have the mic?
It's going to be tough to share, to pick one. So I'm going to make it very simple about Henriot. Is don't pronounce the H or the T. Right? It's just forget, like French, like we like fluff, so forget. It's Henriot, right?
Henriot.
It's not Henriot or Henriot, it's just Henriot. So that's one. And the second the second thing about champagne that like drives me crazy a little bit, and I always feel like to apologize for being a little bit of a snob there, but there's champagne only from Champagne. You make champagne only in Champagne.
Exactly.
It's thousands of years of even more millions with the terroir and the expertise and mastering the process, and there are very well made and delicious and enjoyable, even expensive sparkling wines, but only Champagne delivers that kind of experience, at least for me, and it's important. I mean, like when you buy a little car, you're not going to call it the name of a big car. It's not the same. I think there's something about respecting the people who work there, the terroir, and protecting the appellation. And Champagne has been very vocal and has been doing a good job.
Absolutely.
Protecting themselves, and I think that we should respect that and call champagne, and when it's a sparkling wine, it's a sparkling wine.
I agree. I think that's a perfect reminder to everyone. People may implement the method, but Champagne only comes from Champagne and has a very rich history, and it's the birthplace of these beautiful traditional method wines that are the Champagne method. But Champagne.
Yes. So cheers. We haven't even toasted to
exactly. Cheers. Cheers. This was so much fun. I'm glad we had a chance to meet.
Any opportunity to open a bottle of Henriot, I'll be there.
And maybe one day we'll get to do it in person.
Yes, absolutely. Or even for you to come and see the Maison Les Aulnois. And meet Alice.
I would love to
in the vineyard and see the commitment and the passion of people, of a family, and that would be wonderful.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Amelie.
Thank you very much.
This has been a real treat.
And enjoy the end of the year, and hopefully we can do that again.
Wonderful. Cheers. Stay
Bye.
safe. Bye bye.